Well, are you still with us?
I'm here. Are
I'm
you there?
here. Yeah, I'm here. I got my new headsets.
And you look so dashing.
I know, not bad for $10.
Yeah.
I haven't bought a set in years. I always used to, if I needed them. I never liked wearing them. Earbuds, they would fall out of my ears. These things I can already tell you are gonna start bothering me. Because I don't know, everything sounds a little bit hollow, but I'll get used to it. And it's certainly better than the earbuds because they were falling out of my ears anyhow. But I didn't realize how expensive some of these things are now. All these noise cancellation headsets and all the rest of it. I just need to hear you.
And here I am. And there everybody else is watching right now.
Yes.
I
So well,
promised all of you I promised all of you I'd be here a couple of hours ago on YouTube, and here I am. A
yes,
few
because you did your short fuse update, which you got to let me know when you do the short fuse update so that I can share it on my channel, on my
hours. Oh,
Facebook
okay.
page, because I don't
Okay.
always remember to look for it. And
Well,
I'm not trying to sound insulting or anything. It's just that you're juggling 100 things during the day. I'm juggling 100 things during the day, and it doesn't always occur to me did Joe put it up an update so I can put it up on my Facebook page? So just let me know, and I will be more than happy to share it for you at 10 cents a viewer. And remember, 3 cents of that belongs to Carolyn Appleby. So,
or Marion or Marion Strong.
yes, um, this espresso is really good tonight. Okay, so did you do a snowfall forecast map yet or not?
Yes, I did.
So can you send it to me so that I can put it up?
Yes, I'll send it to you momentarily.
All right. So for the folks watching at home, welcome to uh, my YouTube channel, Joe Chaffee, and of course this is my buddy Joe Rayo, and we do the Joe and Joe Rayo show, the Joe and Joe Weather Show every night. See, I almost gave you three billings there. The Joe and Joe Weather Show every night, roughly at about 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Most times Monday through Friday. We usually skip Saturdays and then we come back Sunday morning at about 10:45, 11 in the morning for our Sunday morning coffee show. So if you like it, use your Gmail account to subscribe and jump in on the chat board. Always pulling out questions off the chat, and a nice crowd here tonight as always. Oh, Dennis Cassia is here. And he's got a little emoji smiley face next to him too.
Lovely.
And he's saying hi to everybody. They're all on a first name basis on the chat. It's so cool. They've developed this sort of cult here, you know, which is nice.
When
Little weather cult.
I dare I say this, but when we get into the warmer spring and summer months, we ought to see what we could do to get some kind of group together at some restaurant in the tri-state area, or in a spot where everybody it would be convenient for everybody to get to, you know?
Right. So that means Rayos is out. You know, we also I'm guessing that Mrs. Rayo is not particularly interested in throwing together a cozy dinner for 100.
You know, our good friend and former colleague of both of us, Bob Wolf, who was the
Yes.
sports director at News 12 Long Island. He was the announcer for both the Knicks and the Rangers. And one time he actually came home and told his wife Jane, this coming weekend, this Saturday, we're having a barbecue. Oh, really? Well, who did you invite? I invited the New York Rangers. And it was the absolute truth.
Oh,
He
that's
invited
too
the whole
funny.
team. He invited the whole team to his house for a barbecue.
Well,
By the way, I just sent you my snow map, by the way.
okay, great. So let me just I'm going to bring it up on the fabulous screen that we have here in one moment. As soon as I found it, you sent it on Messenger.
Yes.
So while I'm doing all this mechanical stuff, um, tell us please your what your ideas are with regards to this situation for Saturday.
Well, I think that up until midday, as I mentioned a few hours ago on YouTube, and I'll mention it again. I think what we're looking at, Joe, is a very, not just a cold air mass, and temperatures in the Hudson Valley when people wake up on Saturday morning are going to be anywhere from the single digits to the teens. Very cold indeed. And I don't expect very much in the way of wind. And I would not be at all surprised if people woke on Saturday morning. You know, you hear people saying, like, snow, 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 Saturday, Saturday's going to snow today. And they'll wake up, and some of you may even wake up to some sunshine. Then, as we move on through the course of the morning and we get into the midday hours, but the lower part of the atmosphere is still going to be very, very dry. We'll probably have what we call virga, snow coming down from aloft, but not making it all the way down to the ground because the air down near the ground is still very dry, evaporating before it gets down to the ground. I would not, I would say right now that it may not be until sometime between noon to maybe even as late as 2 or 3 o'clock before folks start seeing the first snowflakes fall. When it does start to fall, it'll be steady and it will continue on through the afternoon and evening hours. However, I made a mention of the fact that south of Interstate 287, I think that sometime by mid and late afternoon, with the winds turning into a southeasterly direction, there'll be a rise in the temperature enough so that we may see a changeover down there to just plain rain. And I'm thinking that right now, and you see if you look at the snow map I made,
which I
that
have up.
which I think right now should probably be on the order of maybe down by the Sound Shore of Westchester or the Bronx borderline. You may pick up an inch or two of slushy wet snow before changing over. And north of 287, it'll probably remain mostly snow, although there may be a little sleet or even a touch of rain mixing in, but mostly snow. And you really have to go up north. I'd say north of 84 is your best chance or best shot north of the 84 corridor of seeing maybe more than, let's say, 3 or 4 inches, if that much. Not a big storm, and also a fast moving system. In fact, it almost looks like now with the main storm, the primary storm passing off to our north and west, we'll wait until that primary storm sweeps, in essence, a cold front through here late in the evening hours of Saturday. That'll probably shut off the precipitation, put an end to all the precip, actually, and whatever we were able to pick up over a span of 7, 8, 9 hours is what we're going to get by late Saturday night or early Sunday morning.
All right, so you've got your map. Now I'm going to bring up my map. Now you and I did not talk. You and I have not talked at all today, correct?
No, not.
Not a word, not a breath, not a mention, not an ice pellet, nothing. So this is what I came up with, and if you look at it, it's not too far off from what you've got. I think we both drew the same coding to an inch line in about the same place across Long Island. And I really don't have too much disagreement with what you said. I delineated it a little differently than you. I have, I went 1, 2, 3, basically 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I have a stripe of 4-inch snows from in northeast Pennsylvania, kind of like fingering into Sussex County and extreme western Orange County and on up to Sullivan County and beyond. But that's other than that, we're pretty much on the same page here.
Yeah, if you notice, what I did was for each contour line, instead of just putting one single number, I put two numbers for a range. It gives me a little bit of wiggle room, so to speak. And after all, we're not dealing with a flat surface. We're dealing with places that are higher in elevation.
You mean a flat surface like the Earth?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to be just. Okay. Exactly. Go on. Go ahead.
It gives me a little bit more in the way of wiggle room, so to speak. But I think, yeah, you're right. I'm looking at your map right now, and it's not a big storm, and
it is what it is. Which ain't much. It's a low moving across the lakes. It's really a warm front that's coming through. It's going to do what it's going to do in about 4 to 6 hours time maximum. In some places, it may only be 2 to 4 hours, and that's it. And then we're done.
Yeah, I as I said, this is, originally earlier in the week we were talking about the possibility of some kind of a secondary storm system that might develop in the vicinity of southern New England, and that might have a say in this. But it looks like now that system does rev up. It's going to rev up much too far north and east to affect us. So the primary low the storm system that will be passing to our north and west basically swings, in essence, a cold front through after the warm frontal passage. And that cold front is the thing that's going to probably shut the snow off or precipitation off by later in the evening hours of Saturday.
Well, we're seeing. I have the watches and warnings map up. So the biggest impact tonight. Well, there's three systems in play at the moment because you've got a new one coming into the west. The player for tomorrow and Saturday, of course, is setting up from the southern plains all the way up into the Great Lakes, and we've got either winter weather advisories or winter storm warnings up for Iowa, eastern South Dakota, looks like the whole state of Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin. Now, in the northeast and upstate New York and back over into northern Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, we still have some residual winter storm warnings up and winter weather advisories, and that's from low pressure that is developing off the New England coast and strengthening. And we still have energy along and off the west coast, so that's producing winter storm warnings up the Sierra Nevadas in California, up in northwestern California as well, with winter weather advisories moving into southernmost Oregon. And also we're seeing winter weather advisories on the other side in eastern Idaho, western Montana, western Wyoming, and some scattering winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories in the Colorado Rockies down into New Mexico. So sort of a very busy map tonight as far as watches and warnings. Do we get to advisory criteria or not, Mr. Rayo? That's the big
Oh,
question.
please don't ask me that.
Because I don't know what it is.
you know, I'm sure that the National Weather Service, the folks, and you got to ask your friend Bill Goodman about this. I'm sure that the National Weather Service in Upton, New York, is going to issue some kind of a winter weather advisory, at least for places to the north of Interstate 287. Again, I think we're going to see a changeover to rain south of 287 before the day is over with on Saturday. And I don't know if an inch or two qualifies as an advisory or
It
advisory criteria.
doesn't. It's not.
Um,
The criteria for in Upton is 2 inches, at least 2 inches for a winter weather advisory. But some forecasters kind of bend that uh, depending on the situation, and also whether there's going to be freezing rain involved, which in this case there isn't, because
no,
you see the winter weather advisories up for freezing rain where there's very little. There's certainly might not be any snow accumulation unless it's a snow to freezing rain case, but some people have been sort of like bending that 2 inch criteria. It seems. Uh, I don't know. I know in South Jersey and the coastal counties, the criteria is lower than it is for Northwest Jersey. So,
let's go back. Let's go back to the old travelers' warnings. Remember
well,
those?
that's what the winter weather advisory is. It replaced the travelers warnings, which was replaced by the travelers advisory. I always thought that was that was the most depressing thing when you had a winter storm watch up, which back in the day when we were kids, it was a pretty rare thing to have a winter storm watch up.
Right.
But you'd have a winter storm watch up, and then they would go to a traveler's advisory, and
Yeah.
it'd be like wah
You'd be
wah
shattered.
wah. Yeah,
You'd be shattered.
exactly. You're thinking it's going to be a storm of 6 inches or more, and it turns out it's going to be 1 to 3 or 2 to 4 or a coating to an inch or whatever it was. Yeah, it
You
was
know,
always depressing.
I'm showing my age now, but I remember when Tex Antoine, the late Tex Antoine, used to come on each night with Uncle Wethby, and he'd dress Uncle Wethby up. And whenever there was a winter storm watch, he would put two big eyes wide open on Uncle Wethby,
Oh,
like this, like and like he said, as you could see, Uncle Wethby is on the watch, so to speak, and
nice.
get all excited about that, like, oh boy, maybe a big storm, the snow will cancel classes and everything, and then as you just mentioned, with further scrutiny, they knocked it down to a traveler's advisory or something, and then well, we'll just
Oh,
it's not going to
what
exceed.
sad times are these? Well,
Yeah,
our satellite tonight, we actually have some partial clearing here where I am at the coast, at least. But there have been some snow squalls. You mentioned that you had heavy grapple not too long ago. You could see on the loop off the
and it
coast
must
of
have been
Maine.
very Joe, it must have been very concentrated because I'm sitting home. My wife was out shopping and doing some stuff or whatever. 3:45, the phone rings, and I pick it up, and I hear it's my wife. She said, "What the what? Who? Where did this come from?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Look out the window." I looked out the window where I was. Now she was like still a couple of miles away from the house. I looked out the window. I said, "What are you talking about? I don't see anything." I said, "Well, wait a minute. It looks like there's something out there." I thought it was snow initially, two or three little things coming down from the sky. She said, "It is. It's it's like sleet. It's like hail. It's coming down to beat the band. The ground is white and everything else." I didn't understand any of it. But meanwhile, as she's talking, it's slowly beginning to pick up where I was until finally, like 2 minutes later, I said, "I see what you're talking about," because now the driveway is white. It was coming down, but it wasn't snow.
Yeah.
It was pea-sized sleet or grapple that was coming on down to beat the band. Very quickly though, once it lightened up, after a few more minutes, it lightened up considerably, and a lot of that stuff started to melt away. I think she actually did. She got a picture of it on our deck when she got home, our wooden deck, and I posted it on Facebook. But really, you had to see it coming down to truly appreciate it, like moderate to heavy sleet.
Hmm. Well, it's all coming off the lake. You got the storm off the coast of Maine, and you could actually, if you look on the upper right, you could see some very thin bands of clouds that are rotating around it, and they actually show up pretty well on the radar tonight in the Northeast. Joe, you got a bunch of bands here streaking off Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. It's not the air aloft is cooling off apparently faster than the ground temperatures are. I noticed that the ground temperatures have dropped down into the 30s finally, but there are still some pretty hefty looking bands across northeastern Pennsylvania and also in southwestern Pennsylvania with gaps in between. And we're seeing some bands coming off Lake Ontario, moving southeastward toward the Catskills, around Binghamton, and even a few streaks right near the coastline. So looks like some activity will continue there for a little while longer. In the meantime, down in the southern plains, we are seeing precip breakout all over the place across northeast Texas, Oklahoma, across into Arkansas, northern Mississippi. Also seeing some precip up in West Kansas. And we've got some rather hefty precip down in New Mexico and in southeastern Arizona at the moment that's moving northward. And it's also been raining fairly heavily in central California from the coast to inland. And that area seems to be, this morning it was up closer to San Francisco. Now it looks like the southern edge of that is approaching Los Angeles. So they must have raindrop warnings up for LA. And in the meantime, we've got some activity coming in to the Pacific Northwest. So as far as tonight is concerned, I'm going to bring up the new GFS. The NAM, by the way, Joe, I don't know if you noticed that the 18Z NAM kind of got stopped at 51 hours. I don't know if it's a tropical tidbits problem or if it was a system problem. But last...
You always go to the NCEP progs. I mean,
Oh, you
the
could do
world is
that.
not as nice as tropical tidbits is. The world is not the weather world does not exactly revolve around it,
Oh,
although everybody seems to be
it
using it.
does. It does so.
Oh,
It does
okay,
so.
okay.
We like tropical tidbits. We love Levi Cowan and
By
his
the way,
site.
You said it stopped at 51 hours.
At least when I checked it last.
Well, I'm checking it now, and it's all the way out to 84. So
Okay, good. All right. So you know what? Let me bring the NAM up. 1 second here. Okay, so I have it actually already set for the first frame is 1 a.m. on Friday, and what's obvious is this very tight pressure gradient that is in the east. You've got a 1046 high in central Wisconsin, and probably a low down in the 970s south of Nova Scotia on the upper right. That pulls away. The gradient, I think, is going to stay somewhat tight through tomorrow morning, and then the wind should start to drop off tomorrow afternoon as the high nears the coast. And now, of course, you've got the snow, which by daybreak Saturday. See, this is the thing that bugs me about this, Joe. There's this arm. The way the NAM has this structured on the radar, it looks like a warm front, and there's this arm of snow, a narrow band that moves east at 1 p.m. You could see how the NAM structures this radar for us, and then it fills in after that. So I'm gonna uh, you got to hope that it's right on this, because if it's not, you're gonna minimize the precip to a certain extent. You see where it goes over to sleet across Pennsylvania. It's still snow at 4 in the afternoon in northern New Jersey and over Long Island and Connecticut, southeastern New York, and then it's almost to where the back edge is on the coast at 7 o'clock, and by 10 o'clock you've got rain in central and eastern Long Island, but everywhere else it's pretty much done. And of course, it stays mostly snow in upstate New York and on up into central and northern New England. You would expect that with the low tracking the way it is. And as you pointed out earlier, that primary low, northern Lake Huron, the secondary starts to pop up somewhere in over Nantucket. Rather than starting out, say, down near Delaware, it's starting out near Nantucket. Then you've got a secondary low developing in the Gulf of Maine by the time you get to Sunday morning. And at that point, it's all said and done.
Right, right. So really, it's the primary storm that we'll be concerned about, not any kind of secondary development. And as I said, the precipitation is probably going to come to an end as a function of I don't know if you can call it a cold front or maybe the occluded front from the primary low, but whatever. When that front moves on through, it's just going to cut right off, and that'll be it. And it looks like it could cut off as soon as 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening for many places.
I don't see, unless the models are underdoing the radar for some reason. I don't know, Joe. I don't really see a whole lot of upside here. Do you see a lot of upside?
No.
Or maybe potential upside?
Uh, if you want me to say yes, there's a chance for an upside. I'll say it to make you
No,
happy.
I don't want you to say yes. I don't want you to, I'm
I
gonna.
don't.
I
I
don't
don't.
think there is. I honestly, I don't. I don't think there is, unless the radar Saturday morning when we wake up around 8 or 9 o'clock, when we have enough coffee in us, we're both going to look at the radars. You're going to look on your at where you are. I'm going to look where I am, and we're both going to be looking for the same thing, and that is how robust is the precip on the radar. That to me, that's really the only way that there's a little bit of upside, is that if for some reason the models are kind of underdoing the precip a little bit. I don't happen to think that they are. I'm looking at the total precip um, up until 7 o'clock, and reading it off the NAM, Joe, you're looking at roughly 2 to 3 tenths of liquid falling during the afternoon on Tuesday, on Saturday. So you're going to have to get every drop of that liquid to be in the form of snow in order to get a 2 to 3 inch snow amount. I just don't think it's going to be much more than that, because after 7 o'clock, it change. You lose the low levels are gone. You got to get some rain, and then you're done.
Right. I'm thinking, as I said at the onset here, the air is going to be so very dry. I noticed on the Foos, the 12Z Foos run of the NAM model, that as of 18Z on Saturday, the lowest level of the atmosphere is still at 68% relative humidity. I normally think 80% is enough to allow the snow to get all the way down to the ground. I saw that and I said, my goodness, we may not see any flakes here until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then if the backside is coming in, let's say by 9, that only gives us a 6 hour window to play with. 6 hours, half an inch an hour, that's 3 inches. I don't think we're going to see an inch an hour out of this. So I would say for where I am, 3 inches max. And if it doesn't quite come down as intensely as that, it may be even less. It may not be enough for me to even go out and use my snowblower, which
All
I
right.
haven't used in about 44 days now.
Okay, so I'm totally in agreement with you. So we're on the same page with that. All right, let's go really quick
You
through.
know, we would
Go ahead.
get, Joe, we'd probably get higher ratings here if you and I were not on the same page. if you played the role of Bernie Sanders and I played the role of Elizabeth Warren, we'd get probably 3 times as many
Oh
people
God.
to hear us go, scream at each other. No, the NGM is not, the NAM is not right. I don't believe what you're saying. I think we're going to get it.
Are we to imply that when all the models agree that we have that they're we have socialist meteorology? Uniform thought. I don't know that we really want to get too political.
No.
All right, so just really quick on the GFS tonight. Just want to run through a few things here. Uh, Once this is done, start Sunday and into next week, it's going to the whole pretty much all of next week is going to be cold. There really isn't going to be a whole lot happening, I think, Joe, until we get to the end of the week when we are going to start to see some energy that's coming out of the southwest. And I don't know if you got to look at the ensembles today, but there was, even though the operational model runs seem to want to have, you know, systems that are a little bit further to the north, the ensembles were actually colder than the operational runs. So I think it's just going to be a matter of watching the pattern evolve as we go through next week to see if we're going to be dealing with anything important next weekend. I think the opportunity is there with with lower than normal heights across the United States and higher than normal pressures across Canada. So the surface might not be too shabby looking. It's just a question of how this energy comes in, but we'll have to just wait and see. I'm just going to sort of put it on the table for now and wait till after this first system plays out with regards to where we might go down the road. I didn't want to really spend too much time on it because I didn't really get to spend too much time on it in analysis today.
I just decided I'd go to both on the GFS and the NAM, the frontogenesis map at
Yes.
700, and I'm looking to see where all of the contours are. In At 7 a.m. on Saturday morning, they've got a nice tight area on the GFS over western Pennsylvania. You jump 6 hours, it's not quite to our area yet, but it kind of is fading out or falling apart.
Are
And by
you
the
on? I'm
time
sorry, Joe. Are you on the dam?
I'm looking at the GFS first.
Okay, the GFSR. Let me bring it up on the screen. And which one of you got the frontogenesis of 850 or 700?
700.
Okay.
And
A-
and
And
you know, you look
what's? Let me roll
you
it
look at
back. What time frame?
12Z on Saturday.
All right.
That's the 42-hour
Got
model
it.
on the 8 GFS. And you can see that there's a nice area, nice zone of contours, tightly wound up contours over in western Pennsylvania. And that would suggest that there's going to be some significant activity. It's the equivalent of, I guess, what the NSET models show as omega or maybe vertical motion, vertical velocity. You say, okay, all we need to do is to have that come right at us, and we'll get some decent. You move it then 6 hours later. It's not quite to us yet. In fact, the old Alan Casper rule says the Pittsburgh rule, anything near Pittsburgh gets to us like 8 hours later. This 6 hours
Right.
later is practically this. But notice how the contours are now spread out, and it looks like it's weakened considerably. And then by 0Z, by 7 o'clock, they move that up to the Boston area. This almost suggests, if you look at the GFS, that whatever comes, whatever arrives, as I said yesterday, almost like a wall. Maybe we'll suddenly get a dramatic push of snow for maybe an hour or two once it finally arrives here, and then it kind of peters out or dribbles out for the rest of the afternoon, and maybe we don't really see all that much. Now, if you look at the NAM, the 18Z NAM, and back this up now to 7 o'clock in the morning, 12Z, and I like the NAM because you get it in 3 hour intervals, not 6 hour intervals. But you can see a lot of stuff going on in western Pennsylvania. By 15Z, it's over central PA. Still looks pretty good. Still very tight and wound up. All of that energy. You move it to 18Z. Well, it's not quite the same as it was a few hours ago, but still pretty impressive. It's just now entering the immediate tri-state area, just west of New York City. Boom! By 21Z, it's off to the north and east, and we're fairly well out of it. There's
Yeah.
no there's no
Well,
energy.
that's
There's no,
why I said what I was saying earlier, what I've been saying all along for the last couple of days. This is you get this one solid shot, this arm that comes through. If you don't put and yeah, it's a warm front, and it only what does it last? Maybe an hour or two. So you know what? You better have some moderate to heavy snow in that band, a solid band of moderate to heavy snow where it snows at the rate of about an inch or two an hour, and you put down a quick couple of inches. If you don't do it, then I just don't know. I don't know how much you're going to be able to put down in a situation like this.
now the question also is, it still looks fairly tight on the NAM at least as it's coming through our area. Do we get a rumble of thunder? Is there a little convection with that, perhaps, as the warm push of air comes in and through our area? I don't know.
I don't know either. Good question.
I'm gonna
Well,
know.
I would just rather, yeah. You gotta hope for the snow lovers. You're really pinning your luck on this almost this stick of snow that's going to be moving
Well,
through.
Joe, look at the 3 kilometer NAM, and
Okay.
it goes once 1 per hour, and it looks like it's just entering our area at 18Z, and you keep moving, and it's pretty well out, at least in the immediate tri-state area by 20. So you're right, a couple hours, and then it's out.
Yeah, this one, at least with the 3 kilometer, you get it in 1 hour intervals. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's in, it's out, it's done. It's this one big arm that goes through here, and if you don't put it down with that, and just to show you the precip reflection, when the radar its radar view on the NAM 3, you see that narrow arm that's from New York City east at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll back it up. You can follow it from Western PA. It's almost looks like a summertime line of showers, except they're moving northeast instead of moving, say, east or southeast. There is a bit more precip that forms behind it, but it's really that first shot that goes by,
right.
and then it starts to generate some precip here. But I got to bring up the total liquid precip amounts. Let's see, we could do this almost hour by hour and guess. No, every 3 hours for this one. But look at this, Joe, from up to 7 o'clock. Uh, the That's like 2 to 3 tenths. I'm going to be really curious tonight when we get the foos to see what the new NAM model gives us as far as snow amounts are concerned.
This is very funny because the way I see it right now is you're sitting there waiting and waiting for the first flakes to fall. They finally arrive by like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and when it arrives, it comes down pretty good. You say, "Wow, this is great. We finally get it." We start to roll. By 3 o'clock, all of a sudden, the intensity is gone.
Mm-hmm.
It may even stop for an hour or two. Then it starts up again, but only as piddling light snow, which will carry over into about 8 or 9 o'clock. Then the
And then
front,
changes over to sleet and rain in near the coast
right,
at least anyway,
right,
and then it's done.
West and Valley. Yeah, it's
It's all this noise, is what it is.
and over there,
I brought us back up full screen, by the way.
it's crazy. As I mentioned last night, on Eyewitness Channel 7 Eyewitness News this past Sunday, instead of relishing about the fact that we had just had 2 consecutive mid to upper 60-degree days, 2 days where we broke the record, 2 days where it was nice and sunny and beautiful, especially on Sunday, the first thing out of the mouth of the news anchor, I forget what her name is, but she anchors on Sunday evening to Smith to Jeff Smith. The first thing out of her mouth is, "Well, Jeff, it really was nice, but I see we got snow coming our way," making it sound like the snow was coming tomorrow or even on Tuesday. She was already looking ahead to Saturday, and almost and implying by saying that even that this may be a major winter storm, and as we can see, this is going to be just a nuisance. It's not going to be a major monster event, but 5, 6, 7 days out, and she's telling us
I
about the
know.
storm instead of saying what a beautiful set of days we just had.
This is the world
It's the
we live.
scare tactic, folks. Joe and I, when we were in television, that was the main thing, and it's on radio as well. Is we got to get viewers, we got to get listeners, we got to keep riveted to the TV set. That's why we have to tell you about the snow that's coming our way 7 days from now. Oh,
Exactly. I know. That's why I'm happy I'm not doing it anymore. Um, Hang on one second here. I gotta find something. Um, nope. Oh, now I remember. All right, hang on. So, are you ready for tonight's uh,
There's no Jeopardy tonight, Joe.
no, but wait. No, but how
Perry
wrong?
Mason?
No, how? Oh, now that you reminded me. So last night it was actually last night was one of my favorite episodes. I've seen it before. The case of the crying cherub, where about the stolen Matisse.
Right. Was that the
Okay.
one where he took the paintings
Yes,
or
and an original Matisse was stolen, and this woman was she painted cherubs, and that was her thing, smiling cherubs. But she
right,
painted a crying cherub over the Matisse
right.
to hide it. And it was a whole plot to humiliate the owner of the art museum. And then this morning, it was the case of the decadent dean uh, regarding somebody who ran this private school, and they were bleeding students. What I mean is students were leaving, and there was a murder, and somebody got pushed off the cliff, but the cliff had a ledge, and the guy actually landed on the ledge and threw up this fake body. It was convoluted, but it's Perry Mason. You accept it. you
I
accept it. You're happy that Della is there every day to make sure Perry is all right. Then there's Paul, who uncovers all these mysterious little tidbits, and you just have
Now
to.
the one with the cherub. They didn't have that did not have Hamilton Berger though.
No, I forgot the actor's name, but he was in General Hospital for many years. He
Okay.
playing the DA. That
Right.
probably was after the time that actor William Talman. The story was that he was arrested for well, he got invited to a party, okay, and they kind of did you know they did seedy things at this party. And
Right.
the party was raided. He was arrested. He had a morals clause in his contract. CBS fired him. Raymond Burr strongly objected and apparently would not do the show if because of it. He fought for William Talman, and ultimately they reached a compromise where Talman would be on like every third or fourth episode, and they had to get these pretend district attorneys or assistant district attorneys. But I
Or they
always
or they would go somewhere like out in the country somewhere, and Edgar Buchanan would play the
yes.
you know.
See, I always thought that the person who was the biggest beneficiary of them all on that show was Hamilton Berger. He had the easiest job of everybody
Right.
at the end of the day, thanks to Perry always finding the real murderer in the preliminary hearing, he had a 100% conviction rate.
Exactly.
So there you go.
Exactly.
Oh no. But speaking of going back to Jeopardy, we have Briller Jeopardy. Okay, from the
Okay.
chairman Scott Briller. So here is our final Jeopardy answer for tonight. You ready? The category is Central Park Winters. Okay, and the answer is since 1869 in Central Park, there have been only 9 times where this occurred. Good luck.
12
Do do
what
do 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 do
hold it. I
do
didn't get a chance
boom
to write.
boom.
Wait a minute.
Pencils down. Where's Art Fleming when you need him?
Okay. Here's my answer. Can you see it?
Oh, Joseph, you don't know how close you are. The correct answer is what are 10-inch snows?
Oh, and what did I wager?
I don't know. What did you
One thousand
wager?
$1,000.
Oh, well, there's always tomorrow for dreams to come true.
We got to make this a regular feature, right?
Well, we can. We can do whatever we want. It's our show.
Sure.
So I can't see who hit super chat tonight,
Compton's,
but if you
and
can,
as Don Pardo used to say in the Art Fleming days of Jeopardy, Compton's pictured encyclopedia is the source of preparation for the question of answers on Jeopardy. And now, once again, here is Art Fleming.
and you know something, all those all those encyclopedia companies are out of business.
Business
They're
now.
gone.
They're gone. They're nothing. With all due respect to Johnny Gilbert, who does the announcing on Jeopardy now, who is, by the way, I think 94 years old.
Wow.
I miss Don Pardo.
Oh yeah,
To me,
yeah.
it's always been Don Pardo and Art Fleming. Nothing against Art,
Alex Trebek.
Alex Trebek and Johnny Gilbert, but to me, even in the in one of the airport movies, I think Airport Two, the
Yes.
send off or the send up of the airport, the real airport movies. I think they did something where one of the pilots says, "You put us all in jeopardy," and all of a sudden on the plane, there's Art Fleming with the Jeopardy board.
Yeah. NBC canceled Jeopardy in the mid '70s, and I remember being livid. I actually I went to see Jeopardy being taped when I was about 11 or 12 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, because they used to just have to write for tickets because they used to do them in New York, in New York City at Rockefeller Center.
Right.
So, and then I remember years later meeting Art Fleming's daughter. She was a guest on News 12 back in the early '90s.
Wow.
So that was pretty cool. Anyway, want to say thank you to Glenn W. for hitting Super Chat tonight. We really do appreciate it. Fyodor Ledkovsky wants us to talk a little bit more on the long range. I don't know that there's a whole lot to talk about tonight, Fyodor. Really, nothing's really changed much from yesterday in terms of the way in my view, the way the upper air is structured. And to be truthful, I really didn't get a chance to spend enough time on it, so I just don't want to do analysis on the fly with regards to the long range. But maybe we'll spend a little bit more time on it tomorrow night. Michelle, I saw your post asking about Maryland. Northern Maryland might get a coating to an inch or so, but it's just otherwise, it's going to come in and out pretty quickly, and you better get in that band if you're going to see any snow out of this.
Beryl Rakin says Joe Roa. Thanks for your live stream today.
Well, he's fast.
I
He slipped a key.
I've been called Roa, Rayo, Ru, Ra, Re. I used to tell people, I said my car, Joe, is the REO Speedwagon.
Yes, exactly. All right. So look, let's call it a night. I'm happy that we didn't get thrown off the air tonight because with the wind around here, the internet signal has been going out in and out. I tied it up to my hotspot on my phone, so that's sort of held it together. But I don't want to push my luck here. Daniel Fitzsimmons. Here's a question for you. Or do you think will there ever be a channel like News 12 or Fios 1 again? Because I love watching news and weather, says Daniel. Well, I mean, News 12 is still on. But I would just tell you, in my opinion, you're just probably running news operations are money losers. So unless you have somebody that's willing to lose money because they have them because they perhaps bring attention to other programming that a channel might have. So unless there's something that like that down the road, I just don't. I don't know what's left in terms of an open market. When News 12 was around, when News 12 developed, there was a definite need for super local and hyper local news programming. I just don't see it going down the road. If anything, I would say that there's going to be less of it.
Sadly, but that may very well be true. Although I know that one of the assemblymen here in the Hudson Valley is pushing a bill where it's going to force all cable operators to have their own hyperlocal news channel. So in other words, what Verizon did by dropping FiOS and picking up News 12, which is obviously an Altice news channel, and they're just simply, taking that channel, putting it on theirs. If this bill were to go through, and it may not go through for a couple of years, if it goes through at all, it would force Verizon to drop News 12 and then make their own decision as to how to put together a
Or you know
hyperlocal.
what they could do? They could just move their operation out of the People's Republic of the state of New York. Okay,
That's true. They could
you
go to
know,
Pennsylvania or whatever,
the
wherever.
only reason why Albany would even consider making that a law is because it gives politicians